So we have obviously officially reached the very end of the unemployment benefits extension program. Now, granted, there are some people that are still on programs, of course, but certainly it's fair to say is that the sad thing is, of course, is that for the huge majority, specifically about 7 to 8 million people over this last recent weekend, or simply just put over Labor Day weekend, if you are watching this into the future, have sadly already fallen off of the unemployment program in its entirety. So if that does apply to you, just know to stay strong, because there are obviously millions and millions of people in your exact same shoes. But the biggest thing that really is going on is that in today's update, I really just want to talk about which programs are currently still going on, but even more specifically about what are the current options that are out there if you are someone that's currently either still unemployed or you're just looking to maybe try to find ways to maybe get back onto unemployment. Then this is really the video for you, because the big thing to note right now, or if you're just interested in hearing the news, because the big thing to note right now is that as of the time that I'm making this video, which is on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, the day right after Labor Day, sadly, at this time, we do not have any kind of fourth federal unemployment benefits extension program happening. Of course, anything can change. I wouldn't bet on it at this time, because now that the date has obviously gone by, but with so many things that are going on, of course, anything can change. But the big thing is, what I really just want to talk about is, just simply put, is what programs currently are available, because there may be a couple of options that are still available on the table. I do know is that there are also some people that have been wondering and asking if it's possible to maybe reapply. The fast answer is maybe. So we're going to talk all about that in today's update. But as maybe real fast as always, before we begin, remember to smash the like button in light of supporting. Of course, you guys can decide, because I do know it's obviously been difficult news to take in, but it's always really greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about anything at all. Hopefully everyone had a relatively okay Labor Day weekend, or is at least trying to finally able to kind of move on from that and try to get through for brighter days. So with that being said, let's get this video started on the spot. So as of right now, the day right after Labor Day, the only unemployment programs that currently will exist for people is pretty much if you want to either try to get onto the traditional unemployment, or if you happen to be someone that's maybe from a state where the EB/the Fed Ed program is still going on. That is pretty much the only extension that's available. However, there are a lot of states that are slowly starting to taper off and end that program as well. For example, I do know is that if by chance you happen to be in California, there are a lot of people that are on the Fed Ed program in California. If you happen to be there, then the bright news is that you still are very much on the unemployment program. However, that is going to be ending essentially following next week, or maybe has already ended by the time that you're watching this. So the big thing to notice is that at least it's an option that'll sustain for maybe another 1 or 2 weeks. But the big thing is, of course, is that even that has a relatively time-sensitive situation. I do know is that we do also have the MEUC. Now, the MEUC, we talked a lot about already in another past video. The big thing about that program is that the MEUC has officially ended, sadly. However, many states, I know for example in New York, as of the time that I'm making this, and there's a lot of other states that are doing this as well. But the idea is that their application for the MEUC is still actually very much open. They don't have a specific date about how long they're going to be ending the MEUC, so we don't know about that. But I can confirm is that as of this time, if you're watching this on release date, is that the application is still very much open. So if you are interested in trying to get onto this program, then I highly recommend checking out a past video that I made that's literally called the $400 boost. I'll put it at the very end of this end of this video at the very end screen, so you guys know which one to check out, because that explains all about it. If this sounds confusing to you, definitely check out that video, because I do think it's going to explain everything about that unemployment program. But aside from that, is really that the only option really right now is that if you happen to be someone that's on the traditional unemployment, then you are pretty much the only group of people, aside from the ones that we just mentioned, that are still on the unemployment benefits extension program continuing going forward. And when we talk about the traditional unemployment, I think it's also important to specify is that this really only applies to people that are still on the original claim. So what this really basically means is that when you log into your unemployment portal, you will probably see something related to like your balance, number of weeks left. The general rule of thumb is that most states, their traditional unemployment program only lasts for about 26 weeks. It is certainly that way in New York. It is that way in most of the states in the Northeast, and I'd even go to argue for pretty much around 40 something states, it is going to be about 26 weeks. So if you are someone that recently just got onto your unemployment program, something in, let's just say 26 divided by 4, let's just say about 6 months. Essentially, if you are someone that got onto the unemployment program, specifically the traditional unemployment, in the second half of this year, then you should be able to still continue claiming as if not much has happened. However, do notice is that because the FPUC program has ended, you will be getting $300 less than what you've already usually been getting every single week for the last several weeks and weeks and weeks, pretty much since last year, essentially. But the big thing is that now on another notice is that if you are someone that has been on the traditional unemployment program for more than specifically 26 weeks, give or take a couple of weeks depending on your state, but essentially certainly if you are someone that has been on the traditional unemployment program and you are in a state that is no longer doing FEDED or EB, and you've been on this for something from before this year, then it probably means that you are in one of the groups of people, specifically the 7 to 8 million people that we've been talking about, that sadly did fall off of unemployment over this weekend. So if that ends up happening to you, then really the only big option that I would really highly recommend if you're trying to get onto any kind of unemployment is that this may be time that you may be able to look in to trying to now reapply for the new unemployment program. So it's crazy because for the last 1 year, a lot of the labor departments have been releasing information about how you should not apply, or you should not reapply because they're hoping to do everything as a smooth rollover. For the very, very first time in probably over since the pandemic started, if you are someone that recently now have actually just fallen off of unemployment, then it means that this is the time that if you want to try to get onto unemployment, because keep in mind there's no guarantee, but if you want to try to continue or go back to unemployment, then it means that you probably do have to now reapply, and that probably really is the only option if you're trying to get back onto it. Now, if that does turn out to be something that you are trying to do and say you are actually now looking to potentially try to see if you can reapply to get back onto unemployment, say for example, if you just still happen to be unemployed, then that's probably really going to be your best bet in terms of how to actually be able to physically do that. In most situations, it's pretty much going to be the same exact procedure that you went through to try to get onto unemployment the very, very first time, way, way back from when you started unemployment. For a lot of people, I know that was probably the very, very beginning of, or sometime during March of 2020, so that's just crazy to think, but it's essentially going to be the same exact procedure where you're pretty much going to just try to go onto your unemployment website. So you should probably just type in Google up your state. So for example, New York unemployment, and it could be any state, it could be California, Pennsylvania, New Jersey unemployment, and then what you're going to do is that you're going to find the link that will give you the link to where you can submit a new application, and you're pretty much just going to run through the application exactly in the same exact way that you applied for unemployment the very, very first time, way, way back from when you pretty much started to join the very, very first time. This is really the only way at this time that you can potentially try to get back onto any unemployment program in its entirety. So that is the really, really big thing to note. In terms of what to really prepare or what you need for it, the big thing really, all you're really going to need, if that is something that you're interested in doing, is essentially just to have your phone number, because they need a way to contact you, an email address because they need a way to contact you by that as well, and also your address, because that address is going to be where they're probably going to use, and by address we mean physical address, what they're going to be using to send you papers or letters or updates depending on how the case goes, exactly how you've been doing it for pretty much the last months and months and months, or if you're just brand new to unemployment by any chance than for the first time. But beyond this is I'd really also say maybe a huge recommendation is if you can to have your tax documents, because the biggest, probably one of the more important information that you're going to need that is maybe a little bit harder to find is going to essentially be about the information related to your last employer from when you actually were employed. So whenever that is, whether that happened to be a couple of months ago or whether that happens to be before the pandemic or whether that happens to be more than a year ago, you're probably going to need the general tax / information related to whoever was the last employer that employed you to be able to put down into the application and see if you can potentially qualify. But that's probably going to cover really the best options that you really have from here. I would say is that if you still just need any kind of general financial assistance, definitely try to see if you can get onto a lot of the other kinds of government support services and programs, things like food stamps, rental assistance. There are many states and many counties and places that still have applications if you need help paying for things like bills, rent, we mentioned food stamps, and all sorts of other kinds of programs. Those are definitely the ones to look forward to. But I would really just say is that if you happen to be someone that's unemployed, as difficult, and I know that obviously everyone is in a very different circumstance. Some people it's a lot easier to do than others. I would probably say maybe the best bet now, really maybe, just to try to see if you can explore ways to maybe just try to find employment, even if this happens to be part-time. The big thing I think is that at this current time is that there are jobs that hopefully can cater to a lot of different kinds of people. There are jobs that are remote, so if you happen to have to stay at home, there are still places that are hiring. Obviously there's, it's difficult to find a high-paying job, it's difficult to find a job that has a good enough wage, but the idea is that it may just be one of the options that you may have to try to look forward to going forward from here. Maybe consider trying to start a business, a side hustle of some kind. Maybe we'll explore that in a future video, but essentially today's video is really just, I just really wanted to just kind of cover really the best options if you just happen to be someone that's still unemployed, and also maybe about clarifying some details about reapplications, reapplying, and basically all of those general details. So hopefully if you guys found that relatively insightful and you guys haven't done so already, consider smashing the like button. It's really just what I wanted to cover in today's update. If you guys enjoy similar videos, consider subscribing, and as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything at all. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. Hope everyone had an okay Labor Day weekend, and with that being said, hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.